pillows or bolsters, our blankets. Let's have our strap nearby today. We might bring this into our practice. Yoga blocks, folded towels, cushions, all that good stuff. And we have been starting flat on the floor, but if you want to bring a gentle inversion into the beginning of our class this morning, you are welcome to. So that's what I'm going to do. I have my chair set up. I'm going to swing my legs up onto the seat of my chair. So if you're near a sofa or a piece of furniture, you can do that as well. If you're near a wall and you want to start with legs up the wall, do that. Or if you just want to place a couple pillows underneath the calves or your feet to elevate the legs a little bit, you're welcome. And of course, you're always welcome to lie in Shavasana. And we will start there just to kind of check in with everything this morning, to start getting ourselves centered and reconnect to our body and our breath. I'll mention it later on in class too, but since we are doing a little bit more focus on inversions and being upside down, just always be mindful of any blood pressure conditions, heart conditions, pressure around the eyes, and modify as needed. So let's get comfy. I'm going to add a little extra cushion to the seat of my chair. So if you're using something like this, you might want to do so as well. You can also add some extra cushion underneath the back of the body, the head, just so that we can be nice and supported this morning. And as we get into position here, as usual, we'll just take the first moment to kind of loosen things up. So if we need to adjust our clothing, our ponytails, our hair, our surroundings, go ahead and do so. We'll let the arm bones roll open beside the body, clear the space so that the body can relax out on the floor. Now we can have the arms down beside the torso, palms up, or if we want a little bit more for the chest and shoulders. In our position, if it's available, cactus those arms, bending at the elbows and allowing the backs of the hands to flop to the floor. Rock the head out, find the back of the skull, loosen up around the neck. Poof the cheeks with air. Wiggle out the mouth as needed. And then once we've gotten our body into place, we'll press that pause button. And we'll take a nice big breath right away, breathing in through the nose. Breathing in some of that fresh, cool air that's out there this morning. And on our exhale, we'll let our body relax. We'll let our mind relax onto our mat, into the body. Let's do that one more time. Nice big breath in through the nose. And a nice big breath out. Relax the whole body, all the little muscles across the face, the larger muscles through the limbs, around the torso, the belly. And then let's start giving our body a mental scan from the crown of the head, all the way down to the tips of the fingers and the toes. Continuing to relax, letting go of any unnecessary tension or tightness we might find. Checking in with all the areas of our body, areas that maybe need a little extra TLC this morning. Remembering that we practice with the qualities of Santosha and Ahimsa. Santosha means contentment. So being content wherever we are this morning in our practice. And Ahimsa is a practice of nonviolence, but that also applies to ourself and ourselves. So we'll continue to let the whole body relax, and now we'll spread our awareness to the breath. Just observing and watching the body breathe this morning. Ideally, breathing in and out through the nose as smoothly and evenly as possible. Noticing the airflow around the tip of the nose and the nostrils. And then noticing any subtle movements of the body with the breath. And then we'll take this breath a little bit deeper and practice our 3-part breathing. They should also have our Samavritti pranayama layered on top of that. So that's our even or equal breath. So we can mentally count our breath as we start our 3-part breathing. We can just mentally concentrate on the 3 different areas of the body that we'll breathe in and out of. If it helps to concentrate, place your right hand down on the belly and the left hand near the chest or heart at this point. On our inhale, we start with the abdomen. We breathe in and we allow our abdomen to expand. We continue to fill the body into the chest and then all the way up to the brim in the throat. And on the exhale, we reverse the breath back out, softening the throat, the chest, and letting that belly drop back down into the body, or adding a gentle contraction there, drawing the belly towards the spine. Inhaling, abdomen expands. Up into the chest, we feel the ribs expand. Filling ourselves up to the brim in the throat. And then exhaling and emptying from top to bottom. Soften the throat, the chest and the ribs, and belly drops, or we pull it in towards the body. We'll continue at a comfortable rhythm. But over time, as we relax into this breath, it might start to lengthen and grow on its own. So we can add 1 or 2 counts to both our inhale and exhale, trying to keep them as even as possible. And then we'll all take 1 more cycle of breath. And this breath can be our biggest breath of our morning yet. So the next time we start to breathe in, we will just put as much effort as we can to filling ourselves up with fresh air, prana, and energy. When we can no longer sip any more air into the body, we will gently start to release the breath and take just as much time, if not more time, to exhale every drop out. Empty, empty, empty the body. And at the very bottom, when there's no more air to exhale, we'll gently release any control of the breath. It can wander away wherever it wants to go. And we'll come back into our physical body and start to wake it up. So we can release the hands back down beside the body, start to wake up our toes and our fingertips, another little rock of the head side to side. Now, depending where we are in our space, we'll just start to stretch the body so the arms can reach overhead. We can stretch the legs out. If they're elevated on a piece of furniture or a chair, you can just stretch one leg up at a time. If you've chosen legs up the wall, you'll actually want to slide your feet down and open the knees wide into Baddha Konasana for a moment. Point and flex the feet, stretch side to side. And then we'll walk our feet in or draw the knees in towards the body as much as we can. Give our back a little massage side to side. Now we are going to come back down to our back, but if we have props on our mat, roll to the side. So bring one arm alongside the head, roll over to the side just for a moment. And then we'll clear our space so that we can lie flat back down on the ground. So we're going to start our warming movements lying flat on the floor and a little bit of core work too. So if you need to rearrange like I am, go ahead and take a moment to do that. And then we'll find ourselves lying flat back down on the ground. And once we're here, let's walk our feet in towards our sit bones. Those of us that have yoga blocks, we can take our yoga block on the low setting right between our inner thighs. The feet are parallel to each other. Bring the arms down beside the body, draw the shoulder blades under, and we'll start some flowing movement. So this is going to be flowing bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana. Go ahead and tighten up the buttocks, the hamstrings, and the back of the body. Give that yoga block a squeeze if it's there, and press down through the backs of the arms and the feet. As we inhale, we'll lift our hips up. And on our exhale, we'll lower the hips down. So this might be a small movement at first, just waking up our muscles. So you want to squeeze and tighten the back side so that we can start stretching and elevating the front side. Remembering that the neck should be naturally curved away from the floor. And as we start to warm up, we might start to lift a little bit higher. The weight moves into the meaty part of those shoulders. The chest may move towards the chin, but we avoid tucking the chin towards the chest. And come back to a nice, even, smooth breath in and out through the nose. So if you're inhaling to a count of 3 to lift and squeeze up, take that same count to lower back down. Adding the arms, if we want to loosen up the shoulders, do a little massage for the upper back. So on our inhales, the arms will float up to the ceiling and overhead. And on our exhale, they'll float all the way back down beside the body. Good. So this is a gentle inversion on the inhales when we lift that heart up a little bit higher than the head. So it's redirecting that blood and energy flow towards our head, our brain, those upper energy centers. And really feel the stretch through the front of the hips and the thighs as well. And let's take one more flowing bridge pose. That next exhale, as we lower back down, we'll pause. Take the block out from between the thighs. Keep the knees bent, but let's open our feet as wide as our yoga mat. And let's cactus those arms from the shoulders. So again, bend at the elbows. Allow the back of the hands to flop to the floor. Nice deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, we'll windshield wiper our knees so that the knees fall over to the right-hand side. They will be staggered, not stacked, and your left side will arch up from the ground. Inhale up through center, and exhale, let the knees fall over to the left. So getting another hip opening across the front of the hips, a gentle twist, and some gentle back bending. Now the head can turn the opposite direction of the knees to get a little counter twist for the neck. And we can put a little bit more effort into it, really trying to drop those knees all the way towards the floor. But we should never feel any pinching or pain around the knees. If so, back off a little bit. Practice that ahimsa. And let's balance ourselves out. So we'll bring it over to the right side one more time, the left side one more time. And after you've balanced out, we'll meet back up and center. Draw the belly in to hug those knees in. And then let's stretch both feet up to the ceiling in our waterfall pose. So it is first thing in the morning. Those hamstrings might be a little tight like mine. So we'll do our best to straighten those legs, but go ahead and vigorously rub into the backs of those thighs, create some heat, and get the blood flowing back there into those muscles. And then we'll take our hands behind our thighs and we'll try to press our thigh bones forward, really opening up the eyes of the knees, point and flex the feet a couple times. And then let's hold on to our right leg, point the toes, and lower the left leg towards the floor. So keep your low back grounded. This left leg may hover an inch or two from the floor, or we can bring it all the way down to the ground and anchor it. We'll give our right side a little extra attention here. So when we are working towards doing any inversions, we really do need to stretch out our hamstrings because that will give us the mobility to get into some of these positions. And we are just warming up, so don't worry if they're really tight like mine are. Left leg floating or anchored. If you want a little bit more, let's walk our hands up to our calf, float the head and shoulders up as if we were trying to draw our nose towards our knee. And some of you will be a little bit closer than the rest of us. We'll take a nice deep breath in. On the exhale, let's relax the head down. We're going to engage the core, so pull the belly in and try to lift that left leg all the way back up to waterfall pose. Good. Hold on to that left leg and lower the right. So same thing, you'll either keep it in a hover or drop it down to the ground. So if you need more flexibility, I would recommend bringing the leg down. But if you need more stability and strengthening of the core, you can let it hover. Give that left hamstring, the back of the leg, some work here. Now those hamstring muscles go all the way past the back of the knee in towards the calf. So you can massage all the way up and down that leg. A little bit more, we'll reach up a little bit higher. We'll try to lift the head and shoulders up. Continue to pull the belly in to protect the back. Take a nice big breath in. On the exhale, relax the head down, draw the belly in, and squeeze to lift the right leg back up to waterfall pose. We're not done yet. Now we are going to get into some core work. So we're going to do our yogi sit-ups. These are leg lifts. They work the deeper lower abdominal muscles. Arms are going to come down beside the body, palms down. You may slide the hands underneath the lower buttock, but you want to keep your low back sinking in towards the ground. That's kind of our, can't find the word I'm looking for, but if you notice that your back starts to hyperextend and overly arch away from the ground, you're going too far. So you should be able to maintain a neutral spine here. So point to the toes, straighten up those legs as much as possible. On the inhale, lower the right leg. Now you might only be going a few degrees, especially if you take care of your low back. If you're going a little further, it will put more stress on that low back, but over time you might be able to build up the strength to do so. And then on the exhale, you slowly pull it up. So the inhale now lowers the left leg. Try to move to the same degree on each side. And the exhale slowly pulls it up. So we want to use that Samavritti breathing. So if you're lowering for a count of 3, you should be exhaling and lifting for a count of 3. And we want to be as precise as possible. So pretend like you're drawing a straight line up and down with the big toe. The other challenge is to keep the face relaxed. So don't use the jaw and the throat to do these. So just putting a little smile on the face can help relax those muscles. And we want to try to keep one leg pointing up towards the ceiling, stacked right above the hip at all times. Now, a modification is to bend the knees to 90 degrees and just lower and touch one toe down and lift, and then switch sides that way. And if you feel a little burn in the belly, that's good. That's what we're trying to get. We call that our Agni, or our fire. So this also stimulates our digestion and improves our metabolism. So let's try one more to each side. After we balanced ourselves out right to left, we'll take a break. Hug the knees in, relax the belly, rock it out. We are going to do one more round and then we'll transition. So when we're ready, use those muscles to stretch and extend the legs straight up to the ceiling. Now we'll stay with single leg lifts, especially if we take care of those low backs. Those of you that are ready for a little bit more, you'll glue the legs and feet together and you'll inhale, lower both legs together. And exhale, slowly lift them back up. That will put more pressure on the low back, so please be kind to yourself. The whole time, imagine drawing that navel towards the spine. And your spine should be in neutral. Remember, if it starts to overly arch away from the ground, we've gone too far. Let's try two more. So one more to each side or two more doubles. And then we'll take another quick break after we finish that round. Good job. So hug those knees in, rock it out. And then we'll bring our right arm beside our head, rolling over onto our right side. We'll pause for a moment because we have been upside down for a while here. And then press into the ground and we'll bring ourselves up to a seated position. So we will take a little bit of support underneath our sit bones with whatever you like, your blocks, your folded blankets, whatever works for you today. Any position in the lower half of the body here. And we just want to sit up nice and tall, having our sit bones anchored towards the ground. So the low belly will still be drawing in slightly to support the back. Let's float our arms out beside the body, turn our palms up. Big breath in, just reach those arms up to the ceiling. Take a nice big stretch. Exhale, palms out, float it back down to the ground. Lateral extension, seated triangle pose. Inhale that right arm up. We'll slide along that invisible wall. Keep that right sit bone anchored to stretch the waist and the rib cage. Our inhale pulls us up. Switching arms, exhale, nice big stretch over to the other side. One more time to each side, inhaling up. Exhale, a lot of length through the side body. After we stretch out one more time to our right side, let's inhale both arms up. We'll go right into our active twist. So on this exhale, we'll twist to our right. Let those fingertips float down and around and twist all the way up through the crown of the head. Open the eyes wide and try to find that furthest point behind the body. Inhale, pull it back up to center. Exhale, keep the length, so there should be no flexion of the spine. You're rotating around the axis of the spine. Peek behind the body. Inhale, reach it up. We'll do that one more time each side. So really exhale, squeeze the muscles along the right side to deepen the twist. Shoulders, neck, and head. Big breath in, and one more time to our left. Next inhale, we'll meet back up to center. We'll bring the palms to touch and exhale to our center. And we'll take another transition now to tabletop. So however you want to get there, you can crawl forward, stretch your legs out. We'll set up a nice strong foundation this morning. So spread those fingers nice and wide. Hands are as broad as the shoulders. Now press into the ground, so don't lock out those elbows. Use the muscles in your arms. Float the head in line with the spine. Those toes may be tucked under if we want to stretch out the feet, or pointed if we're working on a little bit more flexibility through the ankles. Some flexion and extension now, cat-cows. Inhale, relax the belly. Lift and lengthen from the tip of the tail to the crown of the head. Exhale, draw that belly in, tuck that tailbone under, round the back, and squeeze the chin towards the chest. Drishti is to the belly button. Follow that smooth, even breath in and out through the nose. Feel this movement around the pelvis, the hips, all the way up and down the length of the spine. Feel free to add little lateral movements or hang out in one of these. It feels really good for the spine. And then we'll come back to neutral and take our first child's pose. So let's open our knees as wide as our mat. Point the toes, touching them together. Drawing our hips down and back to the heels. The hands can continue to stretch forward. We'll bow the head to the ground. So our emphasis in this child's pose is getting that third eye center closed and some acupressure there. So if the forehead is not touching the ground, you'll want to stack your fists, your forearms, or use a prop so that we can actively press our forehead into something. Use additional props behind the hips, behind the knees as needed. So this is also a big stretch for the low back and around the hips, but I really want us to feel the weight of the head connected to the ground. Allowing this to be a nice restorative pose. And let's all take one more breath in the pose. And the next inhale, we'll float the head and the body back up. So we're gonna do some bigger warming movements now. Coming back to our tabletop, we'll wanna take it towards the back of our yoga mat. Toes are tucked under, and we'll walk those hands about 1 hand's distance forward. So we'll do our low flow, starting to build up the upper body strength again as preparatory movements for inversions. Our inhale will glide us forward into our kneeling plank. When you come into kneeling plank, feel free to lift your knees up for a moment into full plank just to make sure you have the correct alignment, shoulders over wrists. On those exhales, we can take our bow. Head doesn't need to touch. You're just kind of taking pressure off the wrist, stretching up the shoulders. But we may float the palms up into Hasta Bandha, rising up on our fingertips. If our wrists need a little bit more of a break, inhale, kneeling plank. Now, kneeling plank is strong. I'm not sagging and sinking into my joints. I'm continuing to push the ground away from me. When we're ready, we'll add those half chaturangas. So when we inhale into kneeling plank, the exhale bends the elbows straight back. Upper arm bone should be grazing the rib cage. Inhale, straighten the arms, press the ground away from you. Exhale, take a bow. So if you're moving with the breath, it's an inhale, kneeling plank. Exhale, a tricep push up down. Inhale to straighten the arms up. And an exhale to bow back. Now you are more than welcome to stay in kneeling plank and do several of these in a row, but do not compromise your posture. So if the back starts to collapse, if the head is doing all the work and you're starting to cave a little bit, take the bow. So it's better to keep control and alignment instead of overdoing it. We want to make sure that we're doing everything with a lot of precision and control. So the belly should be pulled in the whole time as well. And we'll really feel this in those upper arms and the triceps and the upper back. Now the next time we come forward, we're going to take it all the way down to the ground. You are welcome to try a full chaturanga. So it's an actual pose. It's 4-limbed pose. That's what that means. Chat is 4 and anga is limb. So 4 limbs coming down, elbows bending, and trying to hover parallel to the floor. And gravity will always win. Once we come down onto our bellies, we'll flatten out the tops of the feet. Now keep them wider than the hips if we take care of our low back, or zip the feet and legs together. Slide the hands all the way underneath the shoulders, chin forward. Squeeze the muscles of the back and inhale, lift that chest up. Bhujangasana, cobra pose. Our exhale, you're going to lower the chest and the chin back down to the ground. Think more about lifting the chest up than the head, and really pull your shoulder blades together and down the back. So this pose is so beneficial for our health of our spine, and it also improves our posture quite a bit. Inhale, you're squeezing the backside. The glutes can also engage. Exhale, lower. Lifting and lowering from the heart. The next time we inhale and lift, we're going to hold it up. So squeeze and tone the back of the body. Pull those shoulder blades down the back. And then we'll slide our elbows straight forward underneath those shoulders into our Sphinx pose. At this time, relax the back. So relax the buttocks. Let your heels flop open. Even give your hips a little wiggle side to side. So we want the muscles along the back side of the body to be relaxed in this pose. It's the arms that are really doing all the work here. And then press down through the forearms. Draw the crown of the head forward. And as you push down through those arms, we're going to pull and lengthen up through the crown of the head. So this is a pretty big back bend, but if we can keep the length up the spine, then this is another really beneficial pose we should do every day to counter all of our sitting and forward flexion. So the gaze is straight forward to the horizon. Remember, if you do turn your hands inward, the webbing of your thumb and index finger should easily grab a hold of the inner elbows. On our exhale, let's peek over our right shoulder. Let's just give our neck a nice little release. Try to find your feet back there, maybe back corner of your mat. Inhale to center. Exhale, let's look over our left shoulder. Inhale to center. One more time each way. This is a little pause before we start working again. And then we'll inhale back to center. So now time to power things back up. Interweave all 10 fingers, nice strong grip in the hands. Make sure you have a nice solid foundation through those forearms. Tuck the toes under. So we're going to go up and down into our kneeling forearm planks. You might bring the knees up eventually. So take a nice deep breath in our back bend. On the exhale, you're going to start to squeeze. So I'm going to look down, push down, and start pulling my belly in to lift up the belly, the hips, the thighs. You should be hovering in a kneeling plank. You are welcome to lift the knees up if you want. Inhale, lower down. Knees, hips, belly, look forward. So we're inhaling into our back bend here. Exhale, tone and squeeze. So look down, push down, pull that belly in. It'll lift up. Lift the hips and thighs, maybe the knees. Forearm plank. Inhale, knees, hips, belly, look forward. Exhale, tone and squeeze, push down, pull the belly in, tighten the front of the body to lift it up and away from the floor. Awesome. Inhale, come down into your back bend, gaze forward. Exhale, squeeze, push, and lift. Inhale, come down, look forward into your back bend. All right, we're going to do one more. Exhale, push down and lift. Inhale, come back down. Pause. Sphinx pose. Now this exhale, we're going to look down and push down. We're going to lift up onto our knees and then step our knees forward. So you can inch them forward. Take your time, there's no hurry. So this is that position like we're in tabletop, but we're on our forearms instead of our hands. Our toes are tucked under and our knees should be right underneath our hips. Now I want you to actively push into the floor. So if you're not pushing into the ground, you're sagging into your shoulders. We don't want that. We're collapsing. I want you to push. Even a little hunching through the upper back is okay. Now the head can drop down At this point, pull the belly in strongly, and we're going to try to hover our knees a few inches from the floor. The head will drop down, so we're trying to lift up into our dolphin pose. Keep pushing your arms into the floor. Your heels will not touch the ground. Pull that belly in. You can try to straighten up through the legs. This is a big pose, a big, powerful pose. Awesome. Shoulders got to be strong. Poof up the back of the heart. Got to have that core engaged. Keep that belly pulled in. Good. Now try to just pause for a moment. Take one more breath. Dolphin pose. The head is hanging. It can be looking towards the toes. Arms are doing most of the work. Take a big breath in. And exhale. We're going to drop back down to our knees. Point those toes. Walk your hands back and sit back into child's pose. So with the knees together, it might be a little bit harder to get the head towards the ground. So again, stack your fists under the forehead or whatever needs to happen to have your head connected. And just give your back a little bit of a stretch and pause for a moment. And then we'll reach those hands forward, spread the fingers nice and wide, float those hips up, tuck our toes under, and we'll float up into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So our down dogs will feel quite different after practicing dolphin pose. So we'll feel like we have a lot more space now. So let's enjoy that space and that stretch all the way up the spine and down the backs of the legs. Let the head just kind of hang. Use your strong arms. Pull that belly in towards the thighs and pressing the thighs towards the back of the room. Feel free to pedal the heels. Again, to get a stretch up the backs of those legs through those hamstrings. One more breath here. We have been upside down for a while now, so be mindful of that. And the inhale, let's look forward and step feet to hands, hands to feet, Uttanasana, forward fold. Our modification is to bend knees and elbows or hands onto our thighs to support the back. Or if you want to stay in the deeper forward fold, you can ragdoll, grabbing opposite elbows with the hands. Try to release the head and neck as much as possible. And then let's bend our knees, place our hands on our thighs with the fingers turned in, tuck the chin, and on the inhale, use those strong legs and the core to roll it up. And make sure we're inhaling, inhaling, inhaling. The head should be the last thing to come up. We'll squeeze our shoulders up, and then exhale, drop them back and down. And just pause for a moment in our mountain pose. Remember, if you get lightheaded or dizzy, just sit back down to the ground. Let's float our toes up, actively pressing down through the mound of the big toe and inner heel, mound of the pinky toe, outer heel. Unlock those knees, strong thighs, squeeze the hips to the midline. Pull in and up through the pelvic floor and the lower abdominal muscles. Let's turn our palms to face forward, spread the fingers as much as we're spreading the toes. Just a little over exaggeration to open the heart and let the head float. Inhale, let's reach it out and all the way up, big stretch. Bring the palms to touch, exhale down. If your toes are still up, you can float them down. Inhale, reach it out and up. This time, let the heels come up. And exhale, try to slowly lower down. 2 more times in our palm tree pose. Big reach. Good. And exhale. So we're going to go into our bigger standing poses, the same 2 that we did last class. So Parsvottanasana, big stretch for our hamstrings, another inversion, and then we'll do our wide angle stretch. So we'll want to gather up our props. I'm going to use my chair. You're welcome to use blocks or books or whatever you might need. And we'll place our props to the front of our yoga mat. We'll start with our squared hips first. So once we've got organized here, we'll want to stand back in mountain pose with the feet hips width apart. And we'll bring our hands onto those hips. So one of the challenges of this pose is to keep our hips level and square. Take a step back with the right foot, just a couple feet. That heel can angle in slightly. We're not on a tightrope here, so you should still have space between the 2 feet. And then draw your right hip forward and your left hip back. So both hips are pointing forward and they should both be level. So make sure you're not kind of sinking into one or the other. The heart will open, but we still want to pull front body to back body. Anchor through the 4 corners of both feet. Make sure you're not jamming your kneecaps back. And then on the exhale, we want to tip from the pelvis. So that's where we're trying to move from. You might just come down a tiny bit. Core is engaged, so pulling through that low belly. Good. Breathe it in. And then exhale, maybe there's some more space. So use every breath to kind of judge where we are in the pose today. If you are available or it's available to you to bring your fingertips onto your props, good. You may at any time. Now we should be feeling the stretch up the back of the left leg. Some of us will feel an intense stretch up the right, like Achilles and calf. If you have really tight calves, you'll get a stretch there as well. But we're really trying to stretch up through the back of the left thigh. And then our breath might take us even further into it as those muscles start to lengthen. So drishti will come down to the left big toe. Keep the breath even and smooth. And some of you are further into the pose, so those of you that have taken it even further into your inversion, you'll bring your drishti to the left kneecap. And those of you that are close, you may add your throat lock, Jalandhara Bandha, chin to chest, and press your forehead into that knee, even if that means bending the left knee into the forehead. It can feel quite nice to make that connection between the third eye and the knee. Those of us that are far away from that, like I am, I'm using the seat of my chair to get a little bit of that pressure into my head, but whatever works for you. Belly's pulled in, hips are level. We're trying to balance that tray of wine glasses on the low back and getting a big stretch up the back of the left leg. And let's all try one more breath in the pose. Next inhale brings us halfway out. So you walk your fingertips forward, lengthen out the spine, lift the chest, engage the feet, the legs, and the core. On the exhale, one hand at a time to those hips. Then we press off that front foot and inhale to come up out of the pose. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Good. And then exhale, step the right foot forward. Arms float down, pause in mountain pose for a moment. Fix the drishti on one spot. And let's inhale, reach those arms out and up. Create some length through the front of the body. Exhale, hands onto those hips. Step back with the left foot. Same distance, the heel will turn in slightly. And then make sure your left hip is forward, right hip is back. So they're both equally pointed to the front and they're level to each other. Open the heart, but continue to pull those low ribs in. And then exhale, unlock those knees, don't jam them back. Hinge from the hips. Again, you might just go a tiny bit that first breath. Active core, strong, strong, strong. Good. And then allow your breath to guide you to wherever it is you go today. You might play a little bit with how we shift our weight from the front foot to the back foot, left foot to right foot, to try to intensify that stretch of the back of the right leg. But we want to keep our low back and hips as level as possible, balancing that tray. Drishti might be in front of the right big toe, eventually the big toe. And then from some of you that brought your fingertips to the floor and you're more of an inversion to the right knee. And then maybe adding that throat lock and drawing forehead to knee, knee to forehead, getting that compression and taking little sips of air through the nose. One more breath. Inhale, breathing brings us up halfway. Find your fingertips, lift the heart, actively press into the floor. Nice strong legs, pull that belly in. Exhale, one hand at a time to those hips. And then inhale, float it up. And then exhale, we'll step that back foot forward. Pause in Tadasana. Float the arms down, fix the drishti on one spot. Big breath in, let's reach it up, big stretch. Palms touch, exhale to our center. So we might need to switch our props up because we're going to move into Prasarita Padottanasana now. So moving the props to the long edge of the yoga mat so that when we open up into our neutral position, we'll take a big step out with both feet and float our arms out. And then if you have your yoga blocks, they'll be about shoulder width apart. Good, so once we're in position here, you'll take that big step out, reach out through those arms. Now your feet might be as wide as your wrist if you were to flex at the wrist. And we start with our feet parallel to each other. So the toes should be pointing straight forward to the long edge of that yoga mat. Inhale, exhale, hands come right onto those hips again. And now we turn our toes inward. So we're trying to pigeon toe our feet to get this internal rotation for those thighs. Again, the heart can be open, but don't hyperextend the low back. Keep engaged through your core. Breathe it in. And on the exhale, again, I'm tipping from the hips. The spine is long. We have a rod going all the way up through the crown of the head. And my legs are strong. Pull up through the quads. Don't jam those knees back. And then again, you might just go a little bit. Eventually, you might start to bring your fingertips down to your props or the floor. But keep the front of the spine as long as the back of the spine. So there shouldn't be any rounding of the back at first. So drishti is right underneath the tip of the nose to the floor. Pull those shoulder blades down the back. So don't droop into the shoulders. Eventually, you might be able to bring the hands to the ground and even walk the hands back between the feet. If you're there, you can bend your elbows back and drop the head down, but keep your shoulder blades pulling down the back. So don't collect your shoulders to your ears. The neck should be long. The neck can be loosey-goosey, but keep the upper back active. Back into our inversion. And a nice big stretch to the backs of the legs and inner thighs. One more breath here. Inhale, lift the head up, float the chest up. Walk back forward onto those fingertips. On the exhale, strong legs, strong core. Bring one hand at a time onto those hips. And then inhale, lift it up. Try to inhale even more. Let's reach those arms up. Exhale, palms touch. Bring them back to center. and heel toe, or just step the feet together. So if you're in a good place right where you are, you can stay there. If you need to move some things around, do so. We're gonna go right into our standing pose, and we've been practicing Vrikshasana, which is a little bit more of a calming, balancing pose. Maybe not seem like it all the time. So squeeze the hips, pull up through those lower bandhas. Float the right heel up. Open at the hip, the knee points out. Softly place the foot up into the inner ankle or calf. You may reach down and lift the foot up to the inner thigh if you like. Same thing here in the hips. If you've noticed that you've collapsed and they're out of alignment, you need to keep your hips level to each other. Lift the heart up into the hands. And then we've been working on our blind balancing to really build up our concentration. So we can take our hands into chin mudra, index finger to thumb. Float those arms out, might help. And then either let the gaze get fuzzy, slow blink, and then eventually close the eyes, and don't be afraid to fall out of your tree. Good. If anything, you should feel shaky and wobbly. We're moving out of our comfort zone here a little bit. Really push that left foot into the floor. Grow your roots into the ground to get strong. Even if we fall, we just come back to it. One more breath. On the next inhale, open those eyes. Exhale, bring the hands back to heart center. Point the knee forward. Stretch the leg out. Bring it down and pause. So it might not seem as calming with the blind balancing. We might feel a little jittery and unstable, but that's okay because we just come back to the breath and we let it go. And that's a good challenge. Other side, draw the belly in, pull up through the pelvic floor, compact the hips, float the left heel, open that knee up, and ideally we're placing this foot in the same position we did on our first side. Make sure that our hips haven't sunk and we're floating them even and level to each other. Chin mudra in the hands, floating them out. I find kind of helps with the blind balancing because they just kind of move around with me to try to help. Blink those eyes and try to close them and keep them closed. Breathing. Good. Really anchor that right foot through the floor. We're not just standing on top of the floor. Really feel yourself pushing through the floor. Good. I love it. Try one more breath. Inhale, float those eyes open. Exhale, bring the hands back to heart. Knee points forward, stretch it out. Exhale, let it go. Pause, focus the drishti on one spot. And one more time, big breath in, reach it out, reach it up, stretch the front of the body. Exhale to center. All right, so we'll make another transition here. We'll clear our space if needed. Come back to the top of our yoga mat, standing in mountain pose. Good, so feet are hips width apart, arms float down, float the head on the shoulders, knees are unlocked, stand against that invisible wall. Big breath in, one more time, last chance to stretch everything out. Drishti to thumbs for a gentle back bend. And then exhale, micro bend those knees, hinge from the hips, swan dive those arms out and down into whatever our forward fold looks like today. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands, a big step back into our downward facing dog pose. From here, make sure your shoulders are strong, pulling down the back, belly's pulled in, feet are parallel to each other. On the inhale, tighten up your right side and float that right leg up, just parallel to the floor. So the right foot is actively flexed here. The hips are still level. And then we'll go into our down dog split. So we'll point through the right big toe. Now we're stacking the hips. So I'm allowing my right hip to open as I reach that leg up towards the ceiling. Big stretch up the back of the left leg. Try to keep your hands and shoulders neutral. So they're still in downward facing dog position. Big breath in. Now this is a very slow, controlled movement. Exhale. You're going to move back through a point. So you're going to bring your right hip back to level. The foot is flexing and slowly drop it back down to down dog. Pause, take a breath. Other side, strong leg, strong belly. Squeeze your left side, left buttock, hamstring, left leg only up halfway. The foot is flexed. Your hips are level to each other. That takes a lot of core strength. Now point to the toes of the left foot, opening it up into the split so the left hip can open. It can stack on top of the right hip, but your hands and shoulders should have equal weight through them. The head is dangling between those upper arm bones. Big breath in, good. Control, exhale. You're moving through that neutral plane. Flex that left foot. Pull the belly in, pull the belly in. And then bring that left foot down, back to down dog. Take a breath. Inhale, heels up. And then exhale. We're going to come all the way back down to child's pose. Take pressure off our hands. Bow the head to the floor. Relax the arms beside the body. Hands to the feet or underneath the forehead as needed. And then tuck that chin. Let's round it on up. Sitting back on those heels. We'll shift over to either hip and bring our feet forward. All right, so we're going to come into a seated position. I do want us to do a few rounds of our Nadi Shodhanam, and then we'll go into our last inversion of our choice and come to the end of our practice today. So find your sit bones, sit up on extra support as needed so we can sit up tall. I didn't grab my box of tissues, but if your sinuses are starting to open up from being upside down like mine just did, you can grab a tissue as needed. So this is a nice way to bring everything back into balance and to prepare us for the end of class. So really important is our posture. We're going to sit up as tall as possible. Sit bones are anchored. Any position in the legs is fine. Just like we've been doing, I'll guide us through a few rounds of Nadi Shodhanam and then give us some time to practice a few rounds at our own rhythm and pace. And then we'll just sit for a moment and concentrate and meditate. So hands come back into chin mudra, index finger to thumb. Hands can be down or palms up on the knees. In the right hand, we take Nasagra mudra, so you make the peace symbol, and then you bring the index finger, middle finger to touch. The thumb, ring, and pinky are the pinchers. Turning the right hand straight towards the face and taking those two fingers and pressing them into our third eye center. Gently rest the thumb on the right nostril and the ring and pinky on the left nostril. You can close your eyes whenever you like. To begin, we inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Then close the right nostril and inhale just through the left. Close left, open right, and exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's one round. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale back through the right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's two rounds. Inhale left. Close left, open right, exhale. Inhale right. Close right, open left, exhale. That's three rounds. Try to take about three more rounds at your own rhythm and pace. If the right arm starts to get tired, place your left hand under the right elbow to prop the arm up and keep the head up. Maintain your posture up through the spine the whole time. And if one side is more closed than the other, that's normal. Just do your best to breathe through it. On your next round, when you exhale out through the left nostril, that should be the end of that round. However many rounds you just did, you finish exhaling through the left nostril. Eyes remain closed. We release the hands back down onto the knees into Chin Mudra. And we concentrate the mind's eye at the third eye center, the eyebrow center, Ajna chakra, our place of intuition and wisdom. We might even still feel that acupressure point, and we can try to visualize a bright light radiating from the eyebrow center. The face is completely relaxed, the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Keeping the spine erect, let the weight of the shoulders and elbows fall away from the ears. Feel the weight of the hands on the knees. Lower half of the body sinks into the ground. And then from the tailbone up the spine to the crown of the head, we lengthen and lift. And on our next inhalation, just softly start to flutter the eyelids open. Take your time bringing our awareness back to our space. And relax the arms, give those legs a little stretch out as needed, wiggle the feet, rub up and down the legs, get the blood flowing back through them. And then it's time to come onto our back. So you can either roll to one side and lock yourself down, or if we want to do a little bit more of the engagement through the core still, we plant the feet, open the knees, reach the fingertips forward, and try to roll down one vertebra at a time. Once we touch down, we can stretch it out for a moment in our long body stretch. And then this last portion of class, we will be in our inversion of choice for just a couple minutes here. So if you want to do shoulder stand, headstand, if you have that in your practice, you're more than welcome to. Just make sure you're doing it safely. I'm going to choose supported bridge pose. So I have my yoga block. Drawing the shoulder blades under, walking the feet to sit bones, squeezing the backside. You might want to start on the lower setting. If you're joining me in supported bridge, you can always take it up a notch later. Make sure the shoulders are tucked under, no weight in the neck. So a smaller inversion here. If you want to pull the knees in and actively hold the legs up in waterfall pose with our block, we can. Or slide those heels forward into full bridge pose, opening up the front of the hips. We did a lot of forward folding today, so this would be a nice counter. If you do want to try to take the block up, squeeze, step the feet in. I wouldn't go into full bridge on the high setting of the yoga block, but you might be able to on the medium setting. If you're choosing a shoulder stand or headstand or legs up the wall or another variation of an inversion, breath is your guide. We should always be able to breathe smoothly and steadily. And then once we're in position, we'll just pause and breathe here for several moments. Let's take one more breath in our pose. When we're ready to release, depending where we are, just do so mindfully with control. If you're in supported bridge pose, we'll have to tighten the muscles of the back up so that we can lift up just enough to slide our prop out from the back, lowering back down, taking gentle rocking movement side to side in the knees. And any last little movement we feel like we might need for our body before our final relaxation. And our final relaxation can also be a gentle inversion. So If you want to swing your legs up over that piece of furniture, a chair, up the wall, or place your pillows and blankets underneath the legs to relax, you're more than welcome to. We just want to be in a position where we completely let go, where the body can be relaxed, a place to restore and renew, and to absorb all the benefits of our practice today. So take a moment, get comfortable, figure out where we want to be. Once we're in position, we want to organize the body, find as much symmetry as we can, right to left and front to back. Position the shoulder blades and the arms beside the body, palms up. Finding the very back center of the skull. Letting go of any expression across the face, relaxing the mouth, the tongue, and the jaw. Relaxing all the way down the arms into the hands, the fingertips, and the centers of the palms. Relaxing all the way down the legs, into the feet, the toes, and the soles of the feet. And then relaxing the larger muscles of the abdomen, the hips, the buttocks, and thighs. The breath is easy, quiet, and calm. If the mind wanders, just gently bring it back to the peaceful breath, or we can rest our mind's eye at that third eye center, even repeating a mantra over and over again, giving ourselves permission to let go, to relax, and to sink into Shavasana. We'll slowly start to come back to our breath and breathe life back into our body. Again, depending where we are in our space, just little gentle movements in the toes, the fingertips, a little rock of the head. Next inhale, can reach the arms overhead, stretching the body back out, point and flex the feet, spread those fingers and toes. The exhale walks the feet in, hugging our knees in, even floating the nose up to the knees if we need a little extra stretch for our back. And then relax the head down, right arm beside the head, and rolling and pausing on our right side for a moment. Keeping those eyes soft or closed, pressing down into the ground to bring our body back up. Finding a comfortable seated position one more time to take just a couple more breaths together today. So sitting up tall, the crown of the head, minding our surroundings, arms float out beside the body, turning the palms up Inhale, breathing. Let's reach those arms all the way up to the ceiling, and let's gather up everything we need for the rest of this beautiful day. On the exhale, turn those palms back out, float the arms all the way back down to the ground, and letting go of all that other junk we don't need today. One more time. Big breath in, arms up. Palms touch. Exhale, hands to heart. Humbly bow the head down to the heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. And I thank you all so much as usual for your continued support